Currently, I myself, as I'm sure we all are, I am formulating a worldview. And that worldview I'm trying to base off of thinking and contemplation and study, all those things that a good smart person does. But really the foundation of it was the foundation of just saying, care. That's the message that I'm going to get at right now. And it's all based off of one little story. That story is when I was going into high school, when I was like my first or second day of JROTC, which was a big deal for me and a big deal in my life. I remember it was early in the morning. It was before dawn. It was still dark out and it was cold. And I was walking through the kitchen and I was just about to walk out the front door when I just paused and I had a little moment with myself. In that moment, I thought about the fact that I'd seen people go through this thing that is high school before. And I knew that high school was something that didn't seem like a big deal, but it was. And at the same time, it really wasn't a big deal, but it kind of was a big deal, It was a mess. But I had seen people go through high school and then just kind of lose who they were as a kid. They kind of lost their brightness in their eyes. And at that point, I just told myself, hey, and these are the literal words I used. I just said, hey, always care. Always, always, always care. No matter the temptation to resign or do whatever everybody else is doing, just care. This care goes hand in hand with do your best, another phrase that was really drilled into me. But the thing is that care was going to be my thing, translated by me and used in a way that I fashioned. And the thing is, there's always a choice to either care or not care in whatever you're doing. It's a state of being. It's not just an action. It's not like you do it or you do the opposite or you just don't do it. It's a you do or you don't. It's a Boolean value. And I'm thankful that I could never really make that subconscious choice not to care because I had dedicated myself to caring. And in dedicating myself to it, you lock yourself into it. And when you lock yourself into it, you have to, force yourself out of it, if you really bind yourself to your word. But a little point I want to make about care is that care, while it's cringy, first and foremost, it is, to care or to be strong, usually you have to first be cringy or vulnerable. Anyway, to care, I think, is really the basis of any positive force in life. And also it's the basis of philosophy and stuff. It's the implicit assumption that underlies all of the Greek syllogisms. It's the implicit assumption that the sons of Abraham were working on when they were writing Psalms. And the Buddhist thing would be to care so much that you don't care about anything. I don't know. It kind of loops around in a certain way. Anyway, when you care about the little things that go on in your life or the little things that you do, and you just tell yourself, care about that, care about doing what's good in that, care about doing the right thing there, care about doing your best there, brush your hair the right way, dress the right way. Don't be a jerk or prideful about it, but just care, do things the right way. You get into that groove when you just care about stuff, and it builds a pattern. Now, I'd like to think that a little guy called Socrates had this happen to him when he came upon philosophy. I kind of think that, the first step to becoming a philosopher is caring about philosophy. And that's just something that Socrates ran into, and then he passed it on to those below him. And I feel like he just cared enough to ask some question. And, we don't even know what that question is, but clearly he asked some question that got it all started. And he cared about that question. He cared about finding the answer. And then we get the whole Socratian line of philosophers. And now, this is assuming that he's the start of the Socratian line, because there are kind of people that did it before him, but we assume that he didn't have contact with them. Like the Jews. guess the connotations on that one. This isn't really something dedicated to the study of philosophy or like the history of philosophy or philosophers, but I will say this is an example of, how you can care about something, because, I cared about thinking. I cared about the why behind the things that I did, the things that I believed, the things that I thought. And so, you can look back at the history of philosophy. You see Socrates, you see Aristotle, you see Plato, and you see people who cared before you. And it's just like studying history. You look back, you find the thought processes that other people have gone through, and you apply them to your own. And you never just take what they say as, the truth, but you apply their thought processes, you vet it out, find what's true, you find what's not, and you find the truth through caring about it. It's like, if you care about logic, if you care about math, you're going to learn about the way that people have described math, and, that's through algebra, through calculus, through trigonometry, like all these things. These are the ways that people in the past have described the truth of what math is. So, if you care about thinking, if you care about thoughts and questions and the why behind what we do, then you would study philosophy. And it involves more the writings of people instead of just the learning of fundamentals and concepts. But that's what the study of philosophy is. And philosophy is really important, whether you think it is or not. It determines the way we interact with each other, the government that we have. Really, it's everything. And you're following a philosopher, whether you think you are or not, because philosophy is the questioning of those underlying assumptions that we have in what we do and, why we do it. Philosophy is kind of the foundation of everything. And while, modern philosophy is pretty cringe-coded, I think there's a way to approach it that's both honest and not cringe. Philosophy is just a flowing fountain of a child's curiosity. And, the first philosopher isn't really known for things like, we have Aristotelian logic from Aristotle, we have the forms from Plato, but Socrates, his thing is his dialogue, Socratian dialogue. While those other people have the products of their philosophy as their main thing, Socrates has the method. The Socratian dialogue method is really what he's given us. And we also describe him as the first participator in what we now call philosophy. Again, we're assuming that the Jews didn't start it. What is above my layer of superficial learning and quote-unquote philosophy, and yet at the same time below it as its foundation, is my philosophy of caring. Caring is the first step, and it's what you have to hold on to. It's not easy, it doesn't make life better, it doesn't make life more comfortable, but it is just what you have to do. It is a necessity to care. And it's kind of ridiculous that we have to say it in this day and age, but, to some people, it doesn't go without saying. This is the foundation of what I have, what I've built, and what I want to continue to build. And while I love philosophy and the study of it, in the Rudyard Kipling sense, we need to, philosophize without making philosophy your master. Getting wrapped up in a man-made abstract philosophy is just as wrong as arguing for the sake of arguing. Thanks, bird. Caring is never wrong, at least in the roundabout meaning that I use it in. Sometimes you have to care enough to let something go. But care isn't the word he uses for it. If you were to be using the more proper word, you might rename our little amiable term of care to love. Love is the greatest of these, and no matter how complicated the topic or how complex the situation, the first step and the state of being that you must constantly be in is love.